Nelka Leila Villarin will now introduce the graduate who will give the response on behalf of the graduating class.
The graduate who will give the response today is known for his extensive learning experiences in the areas of international affairs and global governance. He received scholarship grants for student exchange programs, including the EU Erasmus Jean Monnet program in Belgium and Indonesia, UNESCO-sponsored fellowship in China, ASEAN Goodwill Scholarship in India, and Institute of Southeast Asian Affairs Scholarship in Chiang Mai, Thailand. He participated in Model United Nations in New York, United States, where he was awarded honorable mention representing the country of Gabon. His proposal for a government-subsidized medical e-card won first place in Ambition, an Innovation Case Challenge sponsored by Philippine National Economic and Development Authority and DLSU School of Economics. His experience in various international programs allowed him to have a better understanding and appreciation of his Lasallian education, manifested in his various volunteer engagement and his research interests. This afternoon's speaker dedicated almost his entire student life as a volunteer of DLSU's Center for Social Concern and Action. He participated in community engagement and special projects, such as For the Kids in 2015, a program that catered to 800 children with special needs. Because of his passion for service, particularly for vulnerable sectors, he volunteered to be part of Ritinjali, an organization dedicated to help promote responsible citizenship. He spent a month in Jalawar, India, where he taught preschool children the basic English and self-care. He had an interesting student life journey, from his academic endeavors to his volunteer service experiences. This man took every opportunity to grow, learn, and serve others. A graduate of Bachelor of Arts in International Studies, major in European Studies, Centennial Scholar. Let us welcome Timothy Joseph Henares.
Thank you, Dean Nelka, for the introduction. Guest speaker, Professor Eling Lo. University President, Brother Raimundo Suplido, FSC. University Chancellor, Brother Bernard Oca, FSC. Administrators, faculty, parents, friends around the world, everyone who made this event possible, and my dear fellow graduates, a good afternoon. I'm grateful to be giving this speech on behalf of the graduates. Today, I'll be sharing 3 stories, just 3. As Tyrion Lannister in the Game of Thrones said, there's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. For those who are familiar with the movie Eat, Pray, Love, the leading character Elizabeth travels to 3 countries in search of enlightenment. She discovers the pleasure of eating in Italy, the power of prayer in India, and the comfort of love in Indonesia. Just like our stay at La Salle, we all went in search of enlightenment. We learned how to find the cheapest meal in TAF, may it be Ate Rica's 69 peso baksilog or Food Attack's 35 peso mami rice. We learned how to do an all-nighter for a project due the next morning. And we learned how to communicate with our professors when we needed that 1.0 to pass the course. The 3 stories I will be sharing bring us back to basics. 3 stories that speak of our Lasallian identity. 3 stories we could see at the end of a Lasallian brother's name. These are the stories of faith, service, and communion. FSC. You may be thinking, Tim, who cares about FSC? It's not cool, pare. Or, yung FSC ay para sa religyoso. Hindi ako religyoso. Now, I won't be lecturing you on the religious way of living FSC. What I will be sharing are personal experiences where I saw faith, service, and communion in action. And just like the movie Eat, Pray, Love, my stories will take you to 3 countries: Spain, Thailand, and North Korea. Let's begin with F. Graduates, what does F stand for? Faith. It was the summer of 2015. I was working as a marketing assistant at a university in Murcia, Spain. And one weekend, 2 friends and I decided to visit Madrid. So our plan was to separate ways for 2 days, go where we wanted to go, then meet back at Madrid's bus station, 6 p.m. sharp. I reached the bus station 6:16 p.m. My colleague had booked the Spanish version of Grab for us to leave exactly 6 p.m. And now they were gone. And being a student with a limited budget, I only brought enough money for food and accommodations. Yeah, stupid. Yeah. I didn't have a ride. Murcia was 400 kilometers away from Madrid. In Filipino terms, it's traveling from Manila to Vigan. I became a beggar. After 3 hours of begging, with only an hour left before the last bus departs for Murcia, I sat down and counted the money I gained. 15 euros. I needed 10 euros more. And as if God was amused with what I was doing, a tall Caucasian man approached me. Sabi niya, "Here you go," and gave me 10 euros. Of course, nagulat ako. So tinanong ko siya, "Why are you doing this?" And he said, "Today you, tomorrow me," and left. We all have different beliefs. We may believe in Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, or even science. And I think that's all fine. Because what is most important is that we believe in the source of all goodness that we find in ourselves and in others. Not just our family and friends, our boyfriend or girlfriend, if you ever have one, but also the people we overlook every day. This could be the security guard who helped us cross Staff Avenue, covered in smoke from the cars passing by. This could be the janitor who cleans the unfinished food we leave at Pericos. Or this could be the groupmate who does our share of the work, yet still allowed us to be part of the group. Having faith in people matters because when we look for goodness in others, we find goodness in ourselves. And when we start seeing people through the lens of faith, we let compassion flow in ourselves. And through this compassion, we empower each other to do good in this lifetime and the next. Graduates, how is your faith? Who do you believe in? Next is S. What does S stand for? Service. So for 5 months, I was an exchange student in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And as part of my coursework requirements, I had to teach English to 50 Burmese refugees. And one afternoon, I gave them an activity, a very simple activity. Draw your house. But as I was walking around the classroom, checking each one's work, Mo, not his real name, drew his house covered in fire. I asked him, recklessly, "What happened to your house?" And with a cold face that still haunts me today, he said, "My village is gone. My family, I don't know. There's no home but here." If you visit the DLSU website, you will see a poster saying, #1 Philippine private university, among the top 3% of all universities in the world. Amazing. But what makes us #1? Is it the high level of standards we put up with education? Is it our professors with master and doctorate degrees? Or is it the students we send to competitions, locally and abroad, winning first place in debate, Model United Nations, and business cases? If all are astounding yeses, then what is the purpose of all this education? Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, according to Nelson Mandela. But whose world? DLSU's vision mission speaks of service as for the church and society, especially the poor. And we don't need to go far to see the poor. Just exit any of our gates. Agno, Henry, South. and walk a bit further in any direction, and you will meet people living on the streets. What is the use of being number one when people are begging outside our very own doors? When our education brings us to greater heights, but leaves our countrymen below? We should invest our resources in the trusted organizations and projects that cater to them. And many of these organizations can be found at DLSU. Our offices cater to the last, the lost, and the least. Lasallians, we can't feed people a number. Being Lasallian is not just about being number one. Being Lasallian is also of being of service with others. Think to yourself, who do you serve? Who does your heart feel for? Last but not least, we have C. Graduates, for the last time, what does C stand for? Communion. It was May 18, 2013 when I was watching CNN on the couch with my family, and there flashed a missile flying out of North Korea. Twitter was on fire, the world condemned it, but I was curious. Fast forward to May 2018, I was concluding my fellowship at Zhejiang University in China. And right then and there, I decided to bring my curiosity into reality. I traveled to North Korea. For 4 days and 3 nights, there was no cell phone signal, no Wi-Fi, and no one knew I left, not even my parents. I think I'm a nightmare for all parents here in this room. What felt scary and stupid at first ended up as an enjoyable and insightful trip. I traveled the cities of Pyongyang, Kaesong, and Myeongsan. I visited the world's biggest treasure house, the International Friendship Exhibition, where I saw President Corazon Aquino's gift to the Supreme Leader. I had fresh Korean kimchi, delicious ginseng chicken, and North Korea's #1 full-bodied lager beer, Taedonggang. I made friends from mainland China and Taiwan as well, especially my North Korean tour guide. My mind opened to the reality that no matter how different we are in terms of culture, language, and country, we are all human. You may ask, what's there to share with someone who thinks, talks, and acts differently than me? The Philippines belongs to one of the most successful regional organizations in the world, ASEAN. And in ASEAN, we have a saying, unity in diversity. Despite our differences with the other 9 countries, we choose to complement with what they need. We choose to receive with what they can give. And in our Lasallian prayer, we say, let us all remember that we are in the holy presence of God. And to whom does God manifest in this world? The person sitting beside you. God is everywhere and anywhere. Think to yourself, can you live in communion with others? Who is your family? Returning to the Game of Thrones, Tyrion Lannister asked, what unites people? Armies? Gold? Flags? Stories. I wasn't supposed to study at DLSU. All of you know the tuition is very expensive. And had you seen my high school grades, they were not enough for a scholarship. But one fateful afternoon, I met a brother. And just like Bartimaeus, the blind beggar who called out to Jesus for healing, I called out that brother for a chance to study at one of the best universities this country could offer. Here was a stranger who had faith in me, served me through providing an education, and saw me as part of the Lasallian family. Graduates, create your FSC story. Keep the faith, do your service, and live in communion. Live Jesus, the Philippines, and the world in our hearts forever. Thank you, and Animo Lasal.
Thank you, Mr. Henares.